Hey everybody, welcome to Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. This week we talk about Tortorella, we talk about the teams that are disappointing us, we talk about superstitions, and then halfway through the show, we freeze and we have to start again. But we don't start all the way from the beginning, we start halfway through. We take a little bit of a break and then we start, but you never break, you'll never even know. You'll never even know. Hey guys, you ready for some orange slices? Make sure you send us your emails. Follow us on the Twitter. Welcome to Orange Slices. Hi. Hey, Jeff. It's March 15th, 2021. And of course, Patrick Laine has been benched again in Columbus, Ohio, because that's the way they work. I don't think he's been playing that bad. Do you think he's been playing that bad?
I mean, he's a top-flight goal scorer. Those guys, if you're expecting them to get down, block shots, and play in front of their own net, that's not what you're paying them for. Now, it's kind of been a bumpy road since he got there. The highs are very high, and the lows kind of seem, the lows take him to the bench. And so I don't know where the barometer, where it is there on what keeps him on the ice or what puts him on the bench. But he's got to be wondering every shift out there what other people are thinking, and that's no way to do anything in life. You got to kind of just go out and, especially for his position, just go out and get the puck and shoot it.
He looks depressed in the interviews afterwards, in the post-game interviews. He just looks beaten down, where he didn't have that look in Winnipeg. You know, of all his complaints, he didn't look like he was not having fun. So it's definitely troubled times in Columbus. Do you think do you think it's the coaching staff that is his problem, or do you think the players are a problem as well there?
I don't. In Winnipeg, he had Scheifele and Wheeler kind of to take the load. You know, those two top flight players in Winnipeg, and Kyle Connor has totally stepped up in Winnipeg. So he had some guys that took his ice time, or would, you could say took some of his ice time, but they also took some of the pressure. In Columbus, he's the man. So, I don't know. I just think that he's out there. He looks like he's being he's reacting instead of being proactive and just doing, playing his game and letting the puck find him. And it's a tough one in Columbus for him, for sure. It's been a rocky start. And I think he's out there thinking, when he's on the ice, what do they want me to do? Is in the coaching staff, and instead of, hey, what I know I can do, and get the puck on a stick and put it in the net.
It's like anything, as you say. I definitely, you can see that he's overthinking everything he's doing on the ice. He's not flowing, and I think hockey is an art form, and you can't overthink an art form. You have to just let it flow. So usually, isn't it usually a goalie that overthinks the most and causes himself to react before he should be, and causes the most troubles and sends up? And I guess it's every player, right?
Yeah, I just think he's 22 years old. So there's been a lot of talk and a lot of noise around him early in his career. He's one of the most prolific goal scorers there is in the game. He's a young star. And I think he's totally overthinking it. But I think you find that with a lot of goal scorers. I think of a guy like Phil Kessel. You see him, and they love to show him on the bench talking to himself. And Phil Kessel go 4, 5, 6 games without a sniff, and then all of a sudden, the next 5, 6 games he's got 4 or 5 goals. So Laine's probably similar to that, very streaky. But when it's not going well, he needs support.
But yeah, I don't think he's getting the support right now. I don't think he's getting ridden hard by a Tortorella, and I think the problem with everybody I know says that Tortorella is a great person. He's a great person, but I think he's created this character that we all see for the interviews, for his press conferences, and even on the bench sometimes. And that character has become bigger than the man, and he sometimes follows that when he shouldn't. And people can say, yeah, they got to suck it up because they're professional athletes. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete. You're human, and we all have the same things that we second guess ourselves. We can spin ourselves out of control. I've done it once in a while. We can spin ourselves out of control pretty easy.
Well, if you think about the military you think one way because there's one goal, and they can't have everyone diverging on the way they think. Hockey teams are built a lot like that too, but not as much anymore. So you are now forced to connect with these players and dig in a bit deeper to try and get the most out of them. And I think in Columbus, the way that they've played, and they kind of remind me of the Islanders, like when they're like in the playoffs last year, really tough team to play against, and when they're on their game, really tough, lock it down defensively, kind of really structured one way. Well, the league and the players, they're just not that way anymore. And the successful teams, and I'm not saying Columbus hasn't been successful because they have been, but I just think, you're right. Torts is Torts. And, it's my way or the highway with Torts, and Torts has expectation. And when that's not met in his eyes, he reacts a certain way. And, I'm not going to argue with the success Torts has had. He's been unbelievable. He's won a Stanley Cup. But at this point in his career, I just wonder if he's being more annoyed with what he's seen, versus, hey, being the teacher, breaking it down, trying to find out a way to get the most out of a guy like Laine. I mean, Roslovic's gone in there and played really well. So, and he was part of that trade. So I don't know. It's touchy-feely now. You got to make sure that you are connecting. And like we've talked about before, I certainly don't disagree with that. I think that's a good way to get the most out of people, is make sure you can connect with them.
I feel that when you rolled your eyes a little bit when I said hockey's artistic, and so I feel you've got a little bit of the old-fashioned school in you where you think they should suck it up and come on. And I at the same time I do as well. Something I heard was the games. The games they're not as tough anymore because they've taken out headshots. I'm like, no, you just want guys to be able to tie their shoes later on in life is what they try to say.
Well, let me stop you. Okay, it wasn't.
No, never stop me.
I'm on my eyes because you said art form. I was like, quit using those big words with me. Anyways, I look at it and I don't disagree with you, and I totally. You're right. Like, you don't want to be saying hi to someone after they've been playing in the league or playing professional sports or any kind of thing, and they're stuck for an answer 10 years down the road because they've given up so much. So
right.
And their body is so beat down, and so I believe the league has already seen, and pro sports has already, at least the NHL, seen a huge influx of the European game where it's more puck possession. Like, all you have to do is look at overtime. 300, It used to be a track meet. They used to race each other from end to end. Overtime, you were praying that these games ended in ties so you could watch overtime. It was incredible. 5 minutes of some of the most exciting hockey. Now, overtime is a chess match. It's all about puck possession, and that's a big influence from what you've seen from the old days where it was just, let's go back and forth and run each other through the boards. So, an art form, nice big word, but it certainly is.
It is. We'll leave it on this. We'll leave it on this with Columbus. I feel the Columbus may have maxed out when they knocked Tampa out in the first round that year. They haven't been able to get that back. So whatever happened in that dressing room that summer, which would have been 2018-19 Stanley Cup, I think, that would have been that's when something changed there. But also, a lot of people believe that Tortorella is a 3-year coach, that he runs out of his welcome pretty quickly, So, and I think that would have been his second year. So,
well, here's the thing about any of these teams in the league, but specifically Columbus. They're over 3.33 goals against per game. They've allowed the most goals in their division. Yes, they played the most games, but they've allowed more goals than any other team in their division. So that is not fit in. Something is not jiving or connecting, or whatever word you want to use, because they're not playing the kind of hockey that they've been successful playing. You can look around the room and point at fingers, but we've spent a lot of time on Columbus this year, and they've given us a lot to talk about. But one of the biggest problems is they're allowing way too many goals against.
That you're right, and we'll move on from there. But and also, I want to say, just because we're talking about somebody doesn't mean we're talking about him as a human. We're talking about him as a player, as a coach. We're not going after the person. We're going after their identity. Terrible. So we talk about Columbus. Who are the other two teams that you think are really underplaying what you expected this year?
Well, so far, I would say Philly, and only because you just don't know what you're going to get from night to night. I mean, they pushed the Islanders in the playoffs last year as hard as they could, and the Islanders had just enough to get by them. You watch Philly this year, they're back talking about their goaltending again, which it seems like they talk about every year in Philly. Mm-hmm. And they need more out of their defense, and they need this and they need that. And yeah, they're in a really tough. That's tough sledding in their division, but I just think Philly has underperformed what we thought. And then the other team that I'm waiting to see what they're going to do, and they're going to have to play just about every other day or every day to get to the to the finish line because they've missed so many games, is Dallas. Dallas, I've watched them time and time again, and right now that team is not even close to what it was last year. I know they've got some injuries. They've got some big guys that have missed large amounts of time, but they still got a lot of really good players in Dallas. So they're the team that I think can recover from it. I'm not sure where Philly is, but Dallas and Philly are my two teams right now that I think have totally underperformed.
I think Dallas is that team that went to the Stanley Cup playoffs, to the finals, that we didn't expect to go to the finals, and the next year is a hangover. They're just beaten. They just feel beaten after that run they had last year. Mm-hmm. To me, as far as Philly, I think they're kind of like the Canucks. I think they kind of overplayed their game last year, and we expected more from them, even though they weren't at that point yet. So there's a lot going on in Philly. Their goaltender's so young, and I know we have got a lot. There's a lot of young goaltenders in the league now, but I still think goaltending's 25, 26, 27-year-old game. That's the person that plays that game strong at that age.
Yeah, I mean, Philly, I agree, and maybe a little bit. That's a lot to put on Carter Hart, their young goalie, who's been very, very good. He's had his moments this year, but everybody does. I just look at Dallas, and yeah, they play in the best division in hockey in a normal season, in my view, which is the Central Division. So if anybody can get there, I think it's them, and we'll see. But so far, the early returns in Dallas haven't been great, and they've got a lot of hockey to play to catch up to everybody else. So injuries and some fatigue is going to be an issue as the season goes on for them.
Speaking of tough on you, we were talking about the Central Division, and I want to know, do you think that they'll keep the Canadian? We've talked about this before, and I want to change your mind. Do you think they'll keep the Canadian division for a couple more years? And I have a reason. I asked this question. I have a reason.
You're like a reporter. You're asking me a question. The answer, and you're shaking your hand again this week.
I have a reason. People
are going to be happy. They get the fired up Ian Bagg back and be dropping after no time.
We're running low on fuel. We got to get this plane in.
There's a lot of mileage on that car behind you. Okay, so here's the deal with the Canadian division. People with I didn't even know. I think you asked me if it was be better. Was it with fans or if it's going to stay? So
no, I think it should stay. I'm just going to say I think it should stay, but I have a reason why it should stay as well. So just to let you know, because I don't think COVID's over. So I think we kind of get going back, and it'll be easier if there's a shutdown to keep things going. If they don't push everything back to normal, and the Canadian teams can keep playing and the American teams can keep playing, and without having to bubble. That's my thought process, but I might be way off. But I also think it's kind of exciting, but I'd also like to see the Canadian division go up against the other divisions. It's not as fun for me when it's every night Canadian teams playing Canadian teams. It kind of bores me.
Well, there's two major issues with keeping the Canadian division, and I think it would be great with fans, would really add to it. And I think it would be kind of fun for the league to look at a way to maybe have them play each other a little bit more. And one way you could do that is when these teams come out on a road trip, they usually normally the way it works when you play out of conference is you'll play them twice a year. So maybe you could have it where a team comes out and you add an extra game. So there's a back-to-back, like a Friday, Saturday, or, Thursday, Saturday type thing. I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday. But the problem in the Canadian division is the problem you'd have if you try to do a similar thing down here is you have time zone issues for Vancouver specifically. So if you guys ever noticed, Winnipeg, and we were talking about the Central Division earlier, which Winnipeg normally plays in. Winnipeg has been dropping the puck on some of their games for TV at 9 p.m. local time in Winnipeg. So I don't think there's any team that gets a kind of a rougher ride than they do. Toronto always plays in the 7 o'clock time slot in Eastern time. So Vancouver and Calgary and Edmonton, when they go out east, Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal, you have a situation where you've got more travel, you've got time zones involved, and then how do you balance off the rest of the league? And so I don't know. I mean, I like it with fans. I'd really like to see it, but I just don't. I see this being a one-off.
I think they should play their two games at the same time. They should go out for a weekend or even during the week, and they should play their out of division games twice in a row there. And then the next year they're home at the other, so it saves on travel and it also saves on the time zone. But I'm one of those people, because yesterday the time change happened, which didn't happen in Winnipeg. So they get to deal with that. They get better. But the time change, the clock jumped forward or whatever happened. I don't know what. I don't want to pay attention. But people lose their mind and they can't sleep for days. I'm like, have you never traveled anywhere? Like there's like, suck it up. Oh my God, have you never been out of your time zone? And go, an hour, things went out. It makes me so mad. I'm like, some of these teams played in China and then they came back and played in New York. Like it's shit. That's my Tortorella speech for the day. Yeah, just shut it. Anyway, I just think it would be more fun to see a Canadian division play around and it just and then create more rivalries with these back-to-back games or these series kind of baseball style things. I just think it creates more tension between the teams. The fans get right now, even though I'm one of those people that loves the whole league, I like it when you go into a town and they really support their team. Like sometimes you're wearing the Red Wings jersey or hoodie today. I see that, Jeff. When I go to an LA Kings game, it's half Red Wings. It's when the Red Wings are in town, like half the fans are Red Wings, and I want to see a rivalry.
Okay. Let me see if we can build a bridge here together and see if we can find some common ground, which for us sometimes is a little elusive, but let's try it. So you're going to have Vancouver, and we're just talking about the North. It's the same thing down here. You got Vegas playing Colorado 8 times this year. You got Vancouver playing Edmonton 10 times. I think they play Toronto 9. Right. So next year they're going to play in the division against Edmonton, okay? And they're going to play them, I believe, 5 times. It's like 3 home, 2 away, or whatever. They're going to play Toronto twice. Okay, but now just think about how much more will be built in to these games when they play them a couple times. Because first of all, one of the big knocks on playing like Vegas or Vancouver or whoever out west, LA, they play Pittsburgh once or twice a year, once on the road, once at home. So it's like they don't really get to know each other. Yeah. Well, now this year you have already built in these teams playing outside of their normal division. So if we just go with the North for a couple minutes, you're going to see them grow rivalries, which is great for the local markets in Canada and down in the States. You're going to see them. They're going to play Montreal 9 times. They're going to play Ottawa 9 times. They're going to play Toronto 9 times. Then they're going to play Winnipeg 9 times. They come back out. They play Calgary, Edmonton 10. Well, the only two teams they're going to see on a fairly normal basis next year is going to be Calgary and Edmonton, because they're in the Pacific. Then they're going to see Winnipeg, I think, 3 times, but they'll only see those other teams out east twice. But there's still going to be a lot of animosity and a lot of tension there because they've had to put up with them so much. Same thing down in the West Division down in the States. Vegas sees Mini, and they see Colorado, and they see St. Louis 8 times. Normally in a given year, I think they'd see them. They might see them 3, max 4 times. So there's tension built in, and that's throughout the league. So I think what you're aiming for, there will be some spillover next year because the way you finally have a rivalry is if you play each other in the playoffs. Well, playing each other 8 to 10 times in the season, I mean, there's got to be some games where the dislike has got to boil over, right? So that is going to spill to next year.
Well, you can see there. It seems like there's more fighting this year. You can see that they don't appreciate each other as much as they did before. And towns never really start to dislike each other until they do a 7-game playoff series. So that's what it is. Well, we got 2 more subjects that I want to bring up with you because I need to get them out because I need to discuss them with you because I only get to talk to you once a week.
That's right. We gotta hurry.
ESPN is getting the NHL. I think they paid $625 million for it. I don't know. So it was as soon as they.
Where'd you get that number? Is that the number?
I think it was 6 or 4. I can't remember. It was a pretty big number. It was like, that's pretty impressive. So I was never really a fan of the NHL on ESPN when they had ESPN tonight, Hockey Tonight on ESPN and stuff like that. It's just. They treated it like it was a not real sport, and they really wanted to put it on Ocho 8 or whatever they had, they wanted to put it on that channel. So I'm not thrilled that ESPN is getting it again. I'm happy Fox is not getting it because they did even worse than ESPN. I thought NBC has done the best in America with hockey. I'm going to ask you, which network would you like to see it on?
Well, I think it's like selling a car, and it's not what it's worth, it's what you can get for it. So in this case, how about that? How do you like them apples or oranges? In this case, ESPN, ABC is the parent company of ESPN, doesn't have golf that I know of. I mean, you'll see it on ESPN once in a while, but NBC and CBS carry your golf, and they're in the football. ESPN, I believe, has Monday Night Football still, right? And they're trying to keep that. So now the cool thing is I agree, NBCSN down in the States and NBC's done a nice job. But it's tough for people to find NBCSN. Not everybody has it. You can go into any place, bar, casino, if you're ever going to come down to Vegas, or a place with any kind of sports bar, and ESPN, everybody can get it. So I like it from a visibility standpoint.
All right. I kind of agree with you there. You changed my mind, the fact that you can find ESPN 1 or 2, maybe even 3 in any bar in North America, whereas you can't find. But I hope we don't see Barry Melrose as their mainstay, their expert, their number one guy, which they did for so many years. Nothing against Barry Melrose. I just think there's so many more quality hockey people out there.
Well, thanks for picking on one of my old coaches, Ian. Good job. I loved playing for Barry. He was a great guy. But I will say,
where did you play for Barry?
I played for him in Adirondack in the Red Wing minors. Yeah. And then they moved me. They traded me. But here's the deal. You've got some great up-and-coming younger male and female people that are stepping into the game that I think can help bolster ESPN. So we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, the crew from NBC is going to have to go somewhere. You've also got some people down here like Kevin Bieksa, who just stepped out, lives down in Anaheim. He does Hockey Night in Canada. I'm sure they'll be after a guy like that. And And Barry still does stuff for ESPN, so I'm sure he'll be around. But this is an exciting time for the NHL. It's an exciting time for them to kind of try and bring a new breath of fresh air to the way that hockey's presented in the United States and around, and whoever can pick up ESPN globally. So I'm looking forward to it. And this is a good partnership, I think. And I'm excited to see what they do with it.
That's why you ask your friends questions. I didn't like it. Jeff talked me into it. And remember, it's not what the car is worth. It's what you can get for it. And he got a lot for me. Boy, I felt sucker. I overpaid for that car. By the way, I heard Wayne Gretzky said Walter's favorite saying was failing to prepare is preparing for failure. Oh, what a great saying that is. I'd never heard that one before, but then I've never prepared. So anyways,
that sums up our show.
Right.
Walter knew long before. He's like, these guys are in trouble.
We should change the name to Preparing to Fail. Before we only got a couple more minutes left. So I want to get to, did you ever have any superstitions when you played hockey?
Yeah. When I was younger, I did, and then I just found that they wind you up, and the next thing you know, you're in a knot. So there's lots of players, and I would imagine people listening, they're probably the same too. They have superstitions, but I had them as a player, and as I got rid of them, that was a lot better. It would free.
What was it before you got rid of them? Before you shipped them off?
I was probably at least 5 to 10 years into 5 years into pro at least, and you just find that I found that the mind is like a satellite dish, Ian, and if you let it kind of scan the skies for channels, it'll just keep scanning them. And I find with superstitions, it might focus people on one thing, but to me, it took me away from everything else. So, you know what? Work hard, prepare the day before, think about what you want to do in the game the next night. Take a few minutes that morning, and then focus on one or two things you really want to do well. But you know what? There's lots of guys, the top performing guys in the league. Like, are you looking? I'll use the Flower, Marc-Andre Fleury in Vegas. His superstition is always wanting to be one of the last guys off the ice. And he'll skate around. I mean, this guy's playing just about every night, and he's the last guy off the ice in warm-up. It's just a thing that he does. He's always done. I know Sidney Crosby has them as well. So I'm certainly not poo-pooing them, but I think they serve different situation, or for different people. They might work well for other people, and they might not.
I have two. I have to touch the side of a plane when I get on it. It's the only thing. Of all those engineers, they did nothing until I touched the side of the plane. That's what keeps it in the air.
Well,
so you're welcome, everybody. I say you're welcome whenever I would just point at people. You're welcome. I've touched the side of the plane. We're gonna make it, everybody. You're welcome. And then before a show, I don't listen to the comics that go on before me. That's a superstition. It's not that I don't like them. It's a superstition. I don't listen to.
I thought you were just high maintenance when you did that. I thought you were like, well, I'm better than they are.
Well, that too. Oh. But that's my superstition is that I'm better than everybody else.
Well, no, but you used to listen to them, right?
Yeah, and I bombed all the time. Now I don't listen to them. So
okay, that's why. And then did you tell everyone you take a picture of your luggage before you go fly too?
That was just when I was flying with you. I was just like, I was flying on a private jet with he was flying, and he was flying, and I was just like, I don't trust this pilot. I'm going to take a picture of my luggage because he's going to probably send it someplace else. Anyways, well, we're going to wrap it up now, but we got to do our shout outs. Of course, our number one shout out of the week is always Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell, just being Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell. Who are your shout outs of the week for?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say Jack Campbell, but
let's knock it in.
I can't wait till he starts playing again. Or maybe he's still injured, I think. So
you know who can't wait for him to start playing again? Luciano Casamari.
That's an inside joke, but that's a good one. I like that. He's not the biggest fan of the goaltending in Toronto, is he?
He's not a big fan.
Oh, man. I don't know. You know what? I had a shout out. I was ready to go. And, I know what my shout out is. To anybody, I want to shout out to the people that can say charcuterie. as in charcuterie board.
Oh.
I think I said charcuterie. If you can say charcuterie? As a shout out to you, because that's a really fun board of food stuff to eat, but I can't say it. And
I think we went to school with her. Didn't we go to school with charcuterie?
All right. You can join Orange Slices, Ian. Love to all.
Love to all. By the way, I got one more shout out. The Desert Pines comedy series in Las Vegas, starting March 26th, starring Ian Bagg. By the way, you'll get jokes like charcuterie there while you're there. Have a good day, Jeff.
Okay, I'm going to say it again. Love to all, Ian. Did you hear it?
Love to all, Jeff. I didn't hear it earlier. I apologize.
All
Must
right.
have been a bad internet connection.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you had a great time during this episode of Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. I apologize about our technical difficulties, but it's windy. And by the way, now here's all your Orange Slices information.
Hey everybody, thanks for supporting our show. We really appreciate you tuning in. We're available now on Facebook. Very exciting on Facebook. We're also available on Twitter at slices_podcast. And also, if you'd like to email us, enjoyingorangeslices@gmail.com. That's enjoyingorangeslices@gmail.com. Neither Ian and I could spell that, so hopefully we can find someone that can, so we can put it up on the screen as well. Thank you.